Hi everyone, happy Sunday. Welcome back to another healthy meal in the making here at Cook With Me TV. I'm your host, Ashley Thomas, and registered dietitian. And tonight what we're cooking up is a very, very delicious, comforting dish. We're gonna be cooking up a white bean sausage and kale skillet, and then we're going to place that over some spiced and roasted acorn squash. So we're really harnessing a lot of fall and winter flavors tonight. So this is going to be a really nice dish you'll want to keep on the back burner. It's pretty quick to throw together. I think you'll be pretty surprised at how quickly it comes together. So you can definitely use it for one of those 30-minute or less meals that you have during the week. Something that's nice and delicious and quick to throw together. So give me a wave hello. Let me know if you're tuning in. Happy December. I can't believe it's December already. It's December 1st. So as you know the drill. This is a interactive cooking show. So if you are cooking with me tonight, which I sure hope you are, let's go ahead and get some things prepped and ready before we actually start cooking. So the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I've already got mine going. The second thing that you're going to want to do is get out a big sheet pan or a medium-sized sheet pan. Cover it with some foil or parchment paper. We want to make sure that we don't get that cookie sheet too dirty and sticky. Makes for easy cleanup. While you're doing that, I am just going to make sure that I can see comments. So as you know, this is live. Please ask me questions, make comments. And in the meantime, how is everyone doing today? Did you do anything fun today? Sunday fun day is the term. Did anybody do anything fun? Hey Atlee, good to see you. Happy Sunday. Are you cooking tonight? Let me know. Hi Miriam, good to see you. And Diane, as always, you made it. Diane, you are on time tonight. Look at that. Hey Lisa, hi Karen, good to see you. Long time no see. I hope you're doing well. So for those of you who are just tuning in and are new here, this is a live interactive cooking show, so I want you to cook along with me. Obviously, if you're new here, you probably either didn't know that, so you don't have the ingredients, so please sit back, watch, enjoy the show, and learn a little bit about cooking and nutrition along the way. So as I mentioned, the first thing we're going to do is preheat the oven to 425. We're going to get our cookie sheet lined and ready to go. And the first thing we're going to throw in there is the squash, right? So the squash is going to be the thing that takes the longest tonight. So let's go ahead and cut that open, get it on our cookie sheet, put some olive oil, salt and pepper, spices on it, and pop it into the oven. Yay! You're cooking with me. That's awesome. I'm really excited. I was just going to say a word about the sausage, but I'm going to wait until we actually get to that part. Miriam said she just got home from Thanksgiving vacation. Welcome home. I hope everyone Thanksgiving went well. Let me know. How did that go? I know Thanksgiving can always be, it's usually a pretty good holiday, right? But you get a bunch of family together in one room and everyone has different views on different things in life. So sometimes you can have a few hiccups, right? At the dinner table. Hopefully we didn't have too many of those. So like I said, the first thing we're going to do is cut our acorn squash. And what we're going to do is, I'm actually going to cook 2 of them tonight, but if you have 1, we're going to cut it into fourths. So the first thing we want to do is cut this stem off. And one way that you can do that is just simply take your knife through and slice it down like that and just get the stem off that way. You can also make cuts inside like this and try to cut a circle around it. It takes, it's a little bit harder to do and you risk really poking yourself with the knife. So I usually recommend to just slice it right off the top like that. Perfect. We'll just stick that aside. Now we've got a flat surface to work with. So go ahead and flip it on that cut side. And we're going to do 1 cut down the middle. The acorn squash is pretty easy to cut. It's not as hard as the butternut. And we've got our 2 halves here. So let's go ahead and scoop out those seeds. Grab a spoon and scoop those seeds either right onto your cutting board, into your compost bin, into the trash, or into a bowl here. If you want to take some extra time to save the seeds, you can do that. So like once you get your squash in the oven, you can pick apart, separate the pulp from the seeds here, and throw those on a cookie sheet too and roast them. If I have a little extra time tonight, I might do that. We'll see. we'll save these seeds. We had a really nice Thanksgiving. We had lots of friends over. We had about like 20 people over, and it was potluck style, which I have to say, I highly, highly recommend doing Thanksgiving potluck style so that all the cooking doesn't just fall on one person. It's a lot less stressful, and you get to taste some really awesome dishes from other people, right? So you don't have just the same old traditional Thanksgiving sides that you might if you were to just cook them all yourself. You get lots of different things from other friends and family. Okay, so then once you have your seeds out, go ahead and cut each half in half again. So then you've got your 4/4. And then go ahead and place these on a cookie sheet. So you can see we're not actually taking the skin off or anything. So we're just gonna go ahead and pop these guys right on the sheet pan here. And go ahead and drizzle a little bit of olive oil or whatever kind of oil you're using on those squash, a little bit of salt and pepper. And then the spices that we're gonna use tonight are cinnamon and nutmeg. Just dust your squash pieces with a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg. Go a little bit lighter on the nutmeg. It's a pretty strong flavor. So if you wanna use measuring spoons, I would say do half of a teaspoon of cinnamon total for those 4 pieces, and then maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Or like I said, just eyeball it like me and just do a little dusting. So while you're doing that and getting that into the oven, I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly cut open this other squash so I can get it in. We've had these 2 squashes kind of hanging around, so I just wanna make sure we cook them all before they go bad. So what was everyone's like favorite side dish for Thanksgiving? I'm always curious. Mine is always the stuffing. So I made the stuffing this year, which was good, but I think I cut my bread chunks a little too big. So next year I'll cut them a little bit smaller. But in my stuffing, I had mushrooms, like 3 different types of mushrooms. I had walnuts, onion and celery, of course, some fresh rosemary and sage. Good stuff. Hi, Lindsay and Caitlin. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining. If you're just now tuning in, we are cutting open some acorn squash, putting them on a sheet pan, covering them with a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg, and popping them in the oven at 425 for about 25 minutes while we get the rest of the skillet going. I'm going to turn that on so you can see a little bit better. Okay, a little bit of olive oil here. And if you've already done this part, if you're past me, go ahead and get your rinse your kale if you haven't already. Sometimes kale can harbor some interesting critters. So you always want to make sure that you kind of pick through your kale and get any of those off. Okay, a little bit of pepper. And then, like I said, we're going to do a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg. So these spices especially are going to help to bring out the natural sweetness of squash, especially once it's been roasted. It tends to develop a deeper level of sweetness. And so these slightly sweet flavors are going to go really, really nicely with the salty and savory sausage that we're going to put on top as well. Beautiful. Okay, let's throw this in. Look out, Kiki. Got a sous chef close behind here on my feet. Okay. Hey, Caitlin says, hey. Lindsay, I made something new this year. Carrot souffle. Oh my gosh, I think it's Louisianan. Amazing. Carrot souffle, that sounds delicious. How long did that take? Because I always think of souffles taking a really long time. but I guess they don't really have to. I guess it's more about it flopping in the oven, right? I've made a souffle once in my life. It was in like a food science class in college, so it's been a while since I've made a souffle. Please let us know. And if you have a particular recipe for it, share it in the comment section. Would love to try it. Okay, I'm gonna quickly rinse my kale, just run it under some cold water, and we'll stick that aside. The first thing we're actually going to cook is going to be the sausage. And I'm pretty excited to be using this sausage because one of my friends and regular Cook With Me TV watcher, Nate, made these by hand. So he just gets the meat here locally, but then he adds all of his own spices and other flavorings to the sausage, puts them in the casing. So I'm very excited to be using these. These are raw, so these have not yet been cooked. So what I'm gonna do is take them out of the package, throw them in my pan here, and cook them up. What's really nice to do with sausage in this recipe is to not just leave them whole, but to slice them into bite-sized coins after they've been cooked. I know that a lot of times if you buy sausage or chicken sausage at the grocery store, your sausage might already be cooked. So look on your package and see, is your sausage already cooked? Because if it is, what you want to do is just go ahead and slice them into rounds and then throw them in your pan. So I've got my pan on about medium high here. Just gonna put a little bit of olive oil in. Sausage is pretty fatty, so it's gonna develop and leach out its own fat and really kind of coat the pan, but I like to just give it a little starter with the olive oil. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just grab a different cutting board to cut this on because, like I said, this is raw meat. And while I am going to be cooking the kale, I just want to make sure that I'm not flinging any salmonella anywhere. Hi, Janet. What's going on? Happy belated Thanksgiving and happy December. Also, is Nate on here? So I couldn't remember exactly what he said were in these sausages, so I just want to quickly pull that up. So in these sausages, yellow mustard seeds, black peppercorns, nutmeg, which will go really nicely with the squash, salt, and a little paprika. So these are not spicy. So yeah, but if you like the spicy sausage and you want to add a little extra spicy zing to this recipe, then go ahead and buy the spicy versions. Lindsay said, I used a recipe from a place called Piccadilly, a cafeteria. Pretty easy hands-on work, and then yep, for about an hour in the oven. Okay, awesome, very cool. Did you like it? Well, you said it was amazing, so yeah, you liked it. Very nice, very nice. Okay, I'm gonna throw these sausages in here, get them cooking. So I'm gonna cook them on each side just enough until they're cooked through, and then I'm gonna take them out, like I said, and then slice them into coins. What I like about the coin part is that, hold on, kale on the floor, and Kiki will eat it. Okay. Is that when you saute the coin, I'm just gonna call them sausage coins, I guess. When you saute them, they get nice and brown on each side, a little bit of crispy, so it adds a little extra texture, a little extra flavor. You don't have to do that, it's just a nice extra step to do. So while those sausages are cooking, let's go ahead and get our other items chopped up and ready to go. So we're gonna chop up an onion, we're gonna do some garlic, and then we're also gonna do our kale. So let's go ahead and get those guys out. I'm gonna start with, oops, look at me. I'm almost put that onion down on the dirty cutting board. Although, like I said, we're gonna be cooking these things anyway, so it's probably fine, but you know, being pregnant and all, just taking some extra precautions. So we're gonna use a whole onion. And it can be red, yellow, white, doesn't matter. This is gonna be a little bit sweeter of an onion. And we're gonna take the peel off of it, and then we are going to slice it into, we're just gonna slice it. Were you hanging on the edge of your seat there for the type of slice we were gonna do? Probably not, but hey, Valeria. Oh, Lindsay says literally making another batch right now with all my extra carrots. So how many carrots does it take? I know you're probably like chopping and stuff, and I keep asking you questions and you have to come back to the computer and answer me. Take your time, take your time. Just curious. I bet it's a lot of carrots. Okay, so we're gonna just do some slices here, some little half moon slices. And let's do about 4 or 5 garlic cloves. You can never have too much garlic, right? Janet, is it Janet or is it someone loves garlic on here? Maybe it's Diane. Are you the one that loves the garlic? You're always telling me to throw in extra garlic. Always, always. Slice it into slices. Okay, I'm gonna start with 5. These are pretty big cloves. No one said what their favorite Thanksgiving side dish was. The full recipe is about 2 pounds of carrots. I'm making a half batch, and I use some past their prime baby carrots because you steam them all down and puree them anyway. Awesome. What a great use for produce that's kind of on its last leg. Love it. Janet, I love it, but I think it's Diane. Okay, it was Diane. All right. So we've got these guys picked off. I'm gonna just revisit these sausages here because they are smoking. I wanna make sure I'm not burning them. Maybe I should turn the heat down, huh? Let's go for some tongs. Oh yeah. So whenever you are done with your got the fan on before I set off the smoke alarm. Whenever you are done with your sausage coins, go ahead and take them out of the pan, but use that same pan to saute your onion and your garlic. We're gonna use some chicken or veggie stock to scrape up the bits on the bottom of the pan, which is gonna add some nice flavor into the skillet. Janice says stuffing, mine too. I love stuffing. And we've had a lot left over, so we've been eating it for the past 3 or 4 days. It's been really nice. I love it. I love it. Lindsay, I like the meme. You don't measure garlic with a teaspoon, you measure that with your heart. I love it. I have not seen that meme. Maybe I will create my own and use that line. Is it against the law to steal memes? Miriam says dressing with lots of onions and celery. Across the board, yes. I think stuffing, dressing, however you want to call it, it seems like a crowd favorite for sure. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to finish with this garlic here. So let's go ahead and chop up all of our garlic. Oy. So does anybody do anything special for Christmas? Cooking-wise, whether it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, any family holiday traditions there? or New Year's. I really like New Year's. New Year's is David's favorite holiday. I don't know, you might call, I might call the meme police on you. You wouldn't dare. My mom would always make, so traditionally in my home, for Christmas Eve, my mom would make lasagna. So my mom is Italian, and lasagna is our thing for Christmas Eve. It is so good. I love it so much. And then Christmas Day, my dad loves the tradition of making ham. And then similar Thanksgiving sides. My dad loves Thanksgiving. He loves the mashed potatoes, the green beans, all that good stuff. So it's kind of like Thanksgiving all over again, but ham instead of turkey. And then I always try to throw in some like random dish that never fits the table. It's like some weird creation. But people usually like it. People usually like it. Hey, Evan, good to see you. How you guys doing? Happy Thanksgiving. Happy December. Got some sausages here. These smell so good. All right, so we've got our onion and our garlic chopped up. The next thing that we're going to do is get our kale going. So surprise, surprise, we are not going to de-stem our kale tonight because we are going to be cooking it. So let's just go ahead and we're going to leave the stems on there and go ahead and just give it a rough chop. I'm going to just slide my onion and garlic into this bowl here, kind of get it out of the way so I've got some room on my cutting board. And so we're going to do stems and all. Let's try to chop the stems a little small. They are going to take a lot longer to cook than the leaves themselves, so the smaller that we can chop them, the better. You could also use any kind of green with this. Just really like to get some kind of green in. I feel like several days after Thanksgiving, we're eating a ton of leftovers, and it's not always a ton of vegetables, right? So it's nice to have some fresh green vegetables, something in your meal at this point. You could, like I said, you could use some kind of other green if you wanted to. If you do spinach, though, I would say to save it until the very end of cooking. It does not need a lot of cooking time, and it will quickly wilt and become quite soggy if you cook it as long as we're going to cook the kale. Okay. These guys are looking good. Hopefully you can still hear me okay with the fan in the background. Let me know if you can't, and I'll try to turn my volume up a little bit more. All right, so the next thing is we're going to go ahead and get our beans drained and rinsed. So we're doing 2 cans of white beans. These are Great Northern beans. You can use white cannellini, whatever kind of white bean you like. I like the white beans because they're nice and creamy and they go really well in this. So I'm going to get out a colander, put it in the sink, get these beans drained and rinsed. A couple other words. We do have someone who cooks quite a bit with me who is vegan, and I wanted to just share how she's making this meal vegan. She's using just a vegan sausage in this. So if it's something that you're trying, if you're trying to eat less meat, you can always buy a meat alternative, like a vegan sausage that they sell at the grocery store. Or you could just leave the sausage out of it and use the beans as your protein, because they are still a really great source of protein. And you could use any bean in this, but like I said, the white beans are good. All right. Set those in the sink, let them dry a little bit. All right. Let's see how these guys are doing. What I'm going to do is cut one open, see how we're looking on the inside, because they might be done. Hey, Doug, good to see you. I was just going to suggest using, bacon fat with that kale. Yes, we're using sausage fat, but bacon fat would be really good too. Definitely. And bacon might be something that's good instead of sausage in this meal. Instead of doing the sausage, everything else stays the same, and then you just top it with crispy bacon. That would be really good. Ooh. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that looks delicious. Okay. I'm going to turn my heat down, and I'm going to cut these guys into rounds, like I was saying earlier, or coins, and then just quickly throw them back in the pan for a couple minutes. If your sausages are already done, go ahead and put your onions and garlic in that same skillet. Quickly stir them, frequently stir them so that they don't burn. And once they become pretty cooked through or translucent and very aromatic, go ahead and put your kale in, and then all of your other spices, so your rosemary, and then let that cook for a couple of minutes, and then you'll pour your chicken or your veggie stock in. If you're not that far along, then just keep going with me. Just try to cut these quickly here. All right. So I think sausage gets a pretty bad reputation, right? Because it's not the healthiest of meats. It's not the leanest. It's actually quite fatty. But, it does deliver a lot of flavor, and it's something that you can absolutely enjoy every now and then and not feel guilty about it. I remember when I was first learning about nutrition, I was a little obsessive with eating healthy there in the beginning, and sausage was something I wouldn't touch ever. So I feel like I've come a long way, and I'm not saying that we eat sausage a lot, but every now and then, once or twice a month, maybe we have some sausage, and it's just a nice thing to enjoy. These smell so good. So if you tuned in later, these sausages were made by a friend. He bought the meat locally and then mixed it together with spices and put it in a casing and let me try it. So he does a lot of meats like that. I remember when we went over to his house, he made this awesome, beautiful charcuterie board with all of these kind of like, I don't remember exactly what kind of meats they were, but like a pancetta or, some things like that would be on the charcuterie board, and they were so good. All right, so I'm just gonna let each side of the coin cook a little bit. Let them brown through. And so you can see I've got quite a bit of caramelization on the bottom here. And we're going to get that up with the stock, and it's going to add some nice flavor into the skillet the rest of the skillet. How are things going, Atlee? Let me know if you have any questions or running into any issues. Cool. All right. While I'm over here, I'm going to just check the squash, see how we're doing. Ooh, that's looking good. We are also going to be using some fresh rosemary tonight. We've got a nice rosemary plant in the house. If you don't have fresh, that's okay. You can use dried. I'm going to use about 2 medium sprigs of fresh. So I would use about half of a teaspoon of dried rosemary. The dried herbs are going to be a lot more potent than the fresh stuff. So if you overdo it on the dried, it can be a little too much. Oh, I just love the fresh stuff. It smells so good. It smells so good. Does anyone have any favorite winter dishes that they like to cook? I know we have a lot of soup fans here. I know people are cooking a lot of soup these days. Any soups in particular that you like that you could share with us? Just gonna flip these guys over. Most of them are pretty cooked through. Like I said, once your sausage coins are done, remove them from the pan. Stick them aside. I'm gonna grab a little bowl here. Atlee, how do you know when the squash is done? Mine seems smaller and it's sizzling in the oven. So you'll know when it's done if either it's getting brown on the top or golden brown, or what you can do is use a fork and poke it. And if the fork goes through seamlessly, you can feel how tender it is, that you'll know that it's done. If the fork has some give and it feels like the squash is still pretty hard on the inside, then you need to leave it in there and let it cook a little bit longer. Wouldn't that be funny if there were like vegetable thermometers? Like, you know, there's meat thermometers, right? What if there were vegetable thermometers for temperature, internal temperatures of eggplant and squash? It might make things a little easier. Maybe someone should jump on that. You're welcome. Diane, turkey rice soup on Tuesday or Wednesday. Ooh, yum, which reminds me, we made turkey soup over the weekend with the huge turkey carcass that we had left over. I didn't get around to posting a picture of it. I think it might be gone now, but yes, and we talked about putting rice in it. It never happened. I don't know why, but it was so delicious. It's such a great way to use up all that leftover turkey too. And it's something you can freeze, especially if you've got too much of it. Love that. Oh, Lindsay, I've made a chicken, mushroom, broccoli casserole a couple times lately. Amped up the nutrition a bit with extra mushrooms and onions and made my own cheese sauce. That sounds so good. It sounds so comforting, especially for winter. All right, so these guys are looking pretty done, with the exception of a couple of them. I'm gonna leave those guys in here. Yeah, so like I said, my sausages were not cooked through from the beginning, so this is gonna take a little bit longer for me. When you buy like a chicken sausage or some kind of sausage at the grocery store, a lot of times they're already cooked. They're pre-cooked, so all you have to do is slice them and then do the browning on each side, which doesn't take as near as long. Oh, this just smells so good. All right, I'm gonna scoop these guys out because we are gonna throw them back in with everything else at the end, so we'll have a little extra cooking time. We're gonna leave all the fat drippings in here and use that to start our skillet. So I'm gonna throw my onions and garlic in here, saute those a little bit. Woo. Oh, that garlic, oh my gosh, so good. We don't need to add any extra oil because there is plenty in the bottom of the pan. Okay, I'm gonna move over to a wooden spoon now so I don't ruin this pan. Saute these for just a couple minutes. I'm gonna put a lid on here. Trap some heat, let that cook a little more. And let's check on that squash. Atlee said hers was done, and I know she said hers was a little bit smaller, but it's been a couple minutes longer. So let's pull this out. They look good. Ooh, let's see. Yes, these are just about done. What I'm gonna do, there's still a tiny bit of resistance, just the tiniest bit at the bottom here. I am going to turn my oven off, but leave the squash in there and let them just cook with that residual heat in the oven. I don't want to overcook them. I don't want to get them too mushy. We'll just leave that in there. Very good. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pour my stock in. Again, you can use a chicken or a veggie stock in here. This is leftover actually from last week's show. It's a chicken bone broth. So I'm going to use about a cup of this, which I know is just the remainder of what's in here. And once this starts to simmer, we can use that spoon to scrape up all of those wonderful bits on the bottom of the pan. Start getting some flavor. And then after those bits are scraped up, go ahead and throw your kale in. Get that cooking. And then also your white beans. So the beans are going to release some of their starch into this liquid and make it a little creamy. Which is nice. So you can kind of see those bits coming up, floating to the top there. Such good stuff. If you wanted to spice this up, red chili flake would be really nice in here. Or some chili garlic sauce would be really nice too. So if you like spice, don't hesitate to add any. Still have some bits here at the bottom. I'm going to try to scrape all these up. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm going to get my kale and white beans in. And then also get your rosemary in, which I still need to chop up. So I'll add that in a second. That in there. Get the white beans in. Stir that up. If you find that your bunch of kale was huge, because sometimes the bunches of kale are giant, and you feel like you need more liquid, go ahead and add more stock, or you could just add some water in this, and then add a little extra salt. I am going to add just a pinch of salt here. Yeah, all right. Then we'll put a lid on this. Let that come up to a simmer. And Atlee, I have a feeling that you're pretty far ahead of me, so when you're done, all you do is put a quarter of the squash on a plate or in a bowl, and then top it with your sausage, white bean, kale mixture, and enjoy. It's going to be so delicious. I'm so excited. So excited for you to try it. I'm going to strip this rosemary off. Oh, it smells so good. This is going to add a nice, fresh, almost lemony kind of flavor. Very, very bright flavor here. I might have already told this story before, but when I lived in Greenville, South Carolina, I worked at a restaurant as a server, and one of our jobs was to help do some prep work before dinner started. And one of the things was to pick herbs, pick fresh herbs off of the sprigs. And which one was it? I think it was either thyme or oregano. That was just extremely tedious to pick off each individual tiny little leaf. We would literally spend 30 minutes doing that, and time would go by so slowly. But it added so much great flavor to the dishes, so it was worth it, right? For the customers, at least. I'm gonna add this rosemary right in here. Oh, look how pretty green that kale is already. It doesn't take long. What I also love about the flavor combinations here is that rosemary and cinnamon go really, really nicely together. I know that sounds kind of strange, but they really do go very well together. I made a, oh gosh, what was it? Oh, it's a Brussels sprout and apple side dish. I think it's got squash in it too. But the apples are seasoned with some cinnamon and roasted, and then the Brussels sprouts are seasoned with rosemary and roasted, and then they're mixed together. It's such a wonderful combination. Perfect. Silly question, but do you just scoop the squash out of the skin to eat? Not a silly question at all. You can do that. You can kind of peel the skin away before you eat it, or you can actually eat the skin. It's a little fibrous, but you can eat it, and if it doesn't bother you texture-wise, then have at it, enjoy it. Or you can kind of scoop out the squash as you're eating it out of the skin, if that makes sense. So whatever you think is going to be easier for you. Sounds like it took a lot of time. You know what? That popped into my mind, that exact phrase, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to let Lindsay have this one. Oh, beautiful. Everything's cooking down so well. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add the sausage back in. Let that cook with everything. Maybe reheat it if your sausage has been sitting on the side for a while. Is that a thing of beauty or what? So good. And so you can see here the ratio of sausage to everything else is not quite half and half, right? You've got a little less sausage than you do everything else. And this is just a great way to help balance your nutrient intake by, not overdoing it on the meat. Because, for example, if we were to do like 8 or 10 sausages in here, it would be very sausage heavy, and every bite you would have sausage. And you really wouldn't, those flavors from, the creaminess from the beans wouldn't come through. The kale wouldn't really come through. It would get lost in all the sausage. So really getting a hand on ratios of meat to vegetables is something I really, really like to recommend practicing, only because it changes your dish completely. Yes, I know sausage can be sometimes more flavorful than kale, but when we're trying to, cook in a healthier way, we want to just try to balance things out a little bit more. Perfect. I'm going to throw this on here, let this cook down for just another minute. We can go ahead and take the squash out. Doug says, looks amazing. Totally agree. Of course. Lindsay, yes, I make a Brussels sprout apple cinnamon herb dish, and I use a strip of bacon too. Ooh, that sounds good. Kick it up a notch with a little bacon. I like it. I like your style. All right, let's pull these squash out. Wonderful, wonderful. Looks good. Yeah, so Atlee had a really good question, and I'll show you. I mean, these are super hot to handle right now, but after they're cooked, the skin is pretty thin and quite edible if you want to eat it. If not, you could simply use a knife and just cut it away before you actually serve it, or you can just leave it and kind of eat it out like it's a boat. Kind of scoop your fork or your spoon in with each bite and just scoop it over the skin so you're not actually eating the skin. So I'm going to choose this guy, put him in my bowl here, and we'll put all of that wonderful oh yeah. Cool. Okay. So let's go ahead and scoop some of this out, shall we? Into our bowl. Into our little squash boat here. Make sure you get some of the stock. Oh, so good. You could top it with some things if you wanted to, some scallions, some fresh herbs. A little bit of lemon might be really nice too. Whatever you like. There we have it. We have our acorn squash smothered in a sausage, white bean, and kale skillet. The longer that you cook that stuff down in the skillet, the creamier it will get. That sauce, the stock will thicken up from the starch in the white beans. So if you want it to get a little creamier, then just let it just hang on for a second and let it cook a little bit longer. But other than that, this looks delightful. I'm very excited to eat it. It is piping hot right now, so I'm not going to try it. Although, let's see. I lied. I have to try the sausage because Nate made it. And I have to let him know. Oh yeah. So good. Thank you for providing the sausage, Nate, because now I've got this wonderful meal that I got to experiment with and share with you all, and it's delicious. I hope you like it. Yay, Atlee says it's so delicious too. I'm so glad you like it. Thanks for cooking with me. I love having company in the kitchen. So if you're new here, real quick, this is a live interactive cooking show. So while it is a show and you can sit back and watch, I highly encourage you to come cook along with me. Every week I post the ingredients for what you need to cook these meals along with me, so you know exactly what to get at the grocery store. And then when it comes time to cook, you just join the live show either on Facebook right here or on YouTube. If you're visiting and you're not quite, a Facebook user, you're more of a YouTube user, you can always find me on YouTube as well. So the schedule for December has been posted. Keep an eye out for next week's recipe, and I really hope to see you back here cooking with me. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.